Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about how letting go makes you attractive. So the best attitude that you can have when you are looking for a new partner in life and someone you want to spend time with and have romance with, and even when it comes to friendships as well, you got to have this sort of laid back attitude. And that's always the best kind of attitude to have, especially when you're dating. It's always best to just go into it seeing where things go, not being attached to any kind of outcome. And it's just a way better attitude to have, because if you're the opposite of that and you're nervous and you're really oh God, I really hope this is the one, it's going to make you come across more needy and desperate, and it's going to make you more internally focused. Because when we go out on a date, obviously you have nerves. Like, it doesn't matter how many people you've dated in your life, you're going to have some nerves when you go out on a date. It's just how it's going to be. You're always going to have those first few jitters, and especially on the date if you are with someone who you find like super attractive. But always the best attitude to have is to have a more laid back attitude. And when you're focused and you get really nervous and you're really focused on, I need to come across really well, it's not going to be beneficial to you, because it's going to make you internally focused. So what you want to be when you're on a date is you want to be outwardly focused. You don't want to be really worried about how you're coming across. You don't really want to be worried about saying something offensive or saying anything that, because you're just so worried and you're kind of walking around eggshells and you're tiptoeing around them because you're so worried that you're going to come across unattractive because you really like them. When you're doing that, like I said, you're being internally focused. But if you're more outwardly focused and you're thinking, okay, I want to find out who this person is, I want to find out if this person is a good fit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be outwardly focused, and I'm going to just focus on finding out information about them and finding out about their life and see if we're a good fit. And you're having that more of a laid-back attitude, and ultimately you're going to have more success when you go on dates with that attitude. It's almost like the less you do and the less you focus on the outcome, the more you actually receive, and the more likely you're actually going to end up in a relationship with that person, or at least escalate things romantically with them, even if you don't stay with them long term and it's just a fling or something along those lines. So I sometimes get comments saying about dating and like, oh, it's just so much work these days. I can't believe you have to put in all these steps. But the thing is, with what I coach, really, it's actually minimal steps on your part. Because so for example, what I'm saying here is when you're being outwardly focused and you're asking them questions, you're actually doing a lot less. You're not focusing so much on, oh, I've got to do this and make sure I come across this way, I've got to say this line, I've got to say this. You're actually more focused on them and just asking them questions, getting them to talk about their lives, and you're just sitting back and listening and just figuring out if that person's the right fit. So actually you're not doing that much, right? And when it's also when I talk about when you're texting, especially when you're texting a woman, that the Corey Wayne method, which is to set up a date with them, and then you don't talk to them until you're out on the date, and then you wait a few days after the date to ask them out again. It's minimal steps, absolutely minimal steps on your part, so don't get it twisted. You're actually doing a lot less. You're just doing minimal things, like you're asking her out, and then when the date's over, you ask her out again after, you're not messaging her in between, you're not trying to come up with all these clever lines, you're not trying to figure out the right kind of clothes to wear, where you're trying to do what these sort of like pickup artists do, where you kind of have to, like, I think they call it like peacocking or something, where they wear like a unique piece of clothing, or they put a feather in their hat or something weird. It's, you're not doing those things, you're doing a lot less. So don't get it twisted. It's actually a lot easier to do what I say, and it's not hardly any work at all. Really. You're actually being very lazy with it. Especially when you're out and you're talking to a woman as well, and you're out on a date with her, and you're just asking her questions, and you're just letting her talk the whole time, and you're just sitting there listening. So it's not too much work these days. In fact, it's less work, which is great, because we all want to have more easier, less stress-free lives. And if you do what I coach and what other coaches talk about, like Corey Wayne or in Mark Manson's book Models, or Robert Glover's book Dating Essentials for Men, you're actually not doing that much. Okay? It takes more work to be invested too soon, which is what a lot of guys go through, and what actually a lot of people go through, because it is sort of like the natural thing to be like emotionally invested straight away, especially if you grew up in a very insecure environment, because you can become needy and desperate and feel like that's the norm, when actually, and you might think that, oh yeah, that's the easy thing to do, but really it's a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot of work to become really invested in someone who you've just met. You know, it takes a lot of thinking about them. It takes a lot of looking through your phone at the pictures that you have of them. And it takes a lot of looking through their profiles on social media. It's a lot of work to become invested in them. It takes a lot of mental energy to become invested in someone too soon. But actually, it takes a lot of less mental energy to remain detached and to not do it. But the thing is that some people, like myself, because I had to really worm this kind of stuff out of me. Like, I had to pry it out of me almost. Because if you grew up in an environment, it could have even been your parents. For me, it was a sibling that was just awful to you. And you got these mixed messages, and you grew up feeling insecure about yourself because they made you feel insecure. Again, whether it was a parent, a sibling, it could have been just someone who was a predominant part of your life. If you're made to feel that way, and you don't get, you know, the affirmation and the confidence boost in your self-esteem, you do become needy, and you attach yourself to people because you're just desperate for that validation that you never got as a kid. Yeah, so when you grew up in an environment like what I did, where I had great parents, but I had an older sibling who was basically like a babysitter for me, who I had to spend just so much time with. I remember spending more time with my older brother, my older half-brother, than I do remember spending time with my dad or my mum or my other sibling, who is another brother, but he's my full brother, and he's just only a couple of years older than me. But my older half-brother was 9 years older than me, so he was like in a very paternal situation. My parents didn't know how much of a manipulative, horrible person he was to me growing up, but that's the environment I grew up in. I had great parents, but most of my childhood, I just remember him, and he made my life hell, and he made me feel awful about myself. He made me feel like dirt, made me feel like that big. And when you grow up in an environment like that, you become insecure. You become needy when you become an adult. And it's just not a healthy way to go. And if I hadn't had that, I'm sure I would have thought of some other kind of problems to have in my childhood. But I'm sure I would have got a lot better with my romantic life. So it's important to realize that, okay, maybe the way that I'm acting and the way that I'm behaving isn't actually the right way to go about it, especially if I'm not having any success. Because that's what kind of started getting the cogs whirring in my head, even though it took a long time for them to start working. It was very rusty in there, okay? I'm not the smartest person ever. Even though it may seem sometimes to you, to anyone watching, you may think that I'm really intelligent, or you think I'm something. I'm really not. Like, I'm not all that at all. I had minimal grades. Like, really, I don't think I got anything higher than a C in my GCSEs. I don't think I got anything ever higher than a C in anything ever. So I had to, the point that I'm trying to make is that anyone can learn this stuff. Anyone can develop this stuff. If I can do it, if I can change the way that I think, then so can you. And the issue that I had was, and what got the cogs working finally for me, was that, okay, so I'm doing these things. I'm sending love letters. I'm giving them gifts. I'm confessing my love for them. I'm getting invested too soon. These things are not working. These things haven't worked. So there must be some other kind of method out there. There must be other things that I can do to improve this. And so I learned those things from people like Corey Wayne, Robert Glover, Mark Manson. There were some other channels that I used to watch as well. One was like Dating Logic, another one was Marie Dubec. I think that's how you pronounce her surname. There was just loads of information out there, and I just dived right into it, and I found other ways of doing things. I tried those other methods, had better success with those methods, and I got better at dating, and it was all about becoming less attached so soon. Become attached, allow yourself to become more attached when you're in a relationship with them. But when you're just dating them, you don't know them. You haven't spent enough time with them to become that invested. Okay? So letting go and being laid back makes you look more strong and more confident, and that's why it's attractive. If you're being needy and desperate, it's not making you look attractive, it's making you look less attractive, because you're coming from this insecure, low self-esteem, low self-confidence place. And women like confidence, even guys like confidence in their women. Okay, so confidence is a good all-round thing that universally that a lot of people find attractive. And letting go is one of the ways that you can do that, and remaining unattached to the outcome. So if you want to look more attractive, you've got to let go and just be more laid back when you go out on dates, and act more laid back when you go out and meet people. Okay? And it's even the same, like I said, with friendships. It's the same thing. Like, you can't be desperate for friends. You got to be more laid back. Okay? So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.